I'm talking today with John Shearer. Welcome to the Healing Hour, John.
Thanks, Di.
I cannot wait to hear more about your story.
Sure.
I had heard about you before I met you, but I met John recently at a gathering for mental health, an art exhibition. And yes, like I said, I had heard about you beforehand, and you've got a really amazing story. Gosh, where do we start?
Well, actually, why not start with a bit of my story? In 1982, I actually died in a truck smash, a horrific truck smash in Victoria in the fog. Another truck came out of the fog at me, and I had time to pull on the steering wheel, and then it was nothing. And I found out later that I was revived at the scene. And I had many physical injuries, but the long-lasting effect was 15 years of mental suffering. I was diagnosed with a mental illness, and I was on, I had my ups and downs, and I was on medications, and I had shock treatment even at one stage, and I was suicidal another time, or actually more than one time.
And how long would this have been after your accident that you were feeling so bad?
Oh, almost immediately, because I had no insurance, and the guy's truck that I was driving, it didn't have me insured either, not even for compensation. And I had a young family, and my world fell apart. And then of course the voice took over, that voice we all have, what's the use, you can't do it, you're not good enough, all that sort of things. And I bought into it, and by the time 1997 came around, 15 years later, well, the medical authorities told me that I'd never work again, that I had a mental illness, and that I'd have to take medication for the rest of my life. And they said I'd never be cured. And I believed it. Why wouldn't I? They're the professionals, And that's round about when I got what I call my miracle. When an old friend knocked on my door, who I hadn't seen since before the accident, many years before. He knocked on my door and told me his story, and that put me on a path that I'm still on.
Right. Was that like a mindfulness type of story? Or?
No, it wasn't at the time. It was a story that brought me from the darkness into the light. All of a sudden it was like the blinkers came off, and I could see clearly for the first time. Everything made sense to me. So it was a bit of a spiritual awakening, I guess, in the early days. But I still...
And had you ever thought of anything spiritual before then?
No, not really. Not at all. No. Yeah. I did a lot of study, of course, because straight after the accident, I had this thing inside me that there was a reason why I was saved. Wow, almost a conviction that there was a reason, and that's the only reason that I didn't follow through with suicide, actually. Right. Was because of that. Yeah. There was a reason. I didn't know what the reason was, but I just felt there was one, and I went searching. Right. And I studied world cultures and religions, so, it was just a study, though. History, I did a lot of study, actually, to find out what the reason was. I was searching. Yeah. Pretty amazing.
And when you had the near-death experience, do you remember anything from that?
No, it was blackness. You do hear a lot about white lights and different things, No, it was black. Okay. But I do remember coming back, and it was an extremely slow process and almost impossible to describe. But it was like I wasn't even on this world. I was somewhere else out there in the universe. And I came back really, really slowly, until I came to in Kilmore Hospital. Terrible name for a town. Kilmore. Yeah.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah. So 1997 come around, and I had that awakening, which put me on a path. And it didn't take too long when I was working again, and then selling pool tables. Then me and my wife opened a pool room in the main street of Wagga Wagga, a pool hall. We had 16 pool tables and a jukebox, and it was full of youth and soldiers from the local army base. We did that for 6 years. It was a very successful business. It took me to Las Vegas too with the Australian pool team. Okay. So, which was like a childhood dream of mine. I used to wag school and play snooker at the local snooker hall. Okay. So my dreams come true through that. And of course I was still battling unhelpful and negative thoughts. and we all have them.
Yeah, but you were still able to function.
But I could see through them.
Yeah.
And they were easy to overcome.
Yeah.
But in 2009, when I lost a friend to an asthma attack, actually, and my wife was using the same breathing apparatus, a nebulizer, to start a day, with asthma. And then I thought, well, what about we look to move north? And we ended up in Grafton. So, and no more asthma for my wife, which is beautiful. And I'm doing part-time work for Juvenile Justice, mentoring. And then I decided to start my business, because even through those rough years of ups and downs, I did have times where I was fairly well, and I trained to be a counsellor, a term I'm not keen on, because counselling sort of infers that something's wrong with people, but in fact people are just stuck. And a mindful practice, wow, So in 2009 I decided, well, what am I going to do when we moved to Grafton? I thought, I'll go counselling, or coaching is what I preferred to call it. So I became mindfulness coach, because I surfed the internet to find out what the latest things worldwide were in mental health. And what I found was actually a book called The Happiness Trap. It's written by Dr. Russ Harris, an Australian doctor, a world bestseller. Happiness Trap, and it's about ACT. And ACT stands for Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, which is the latest and simplest therapy on the planet today. And it's very much a mindfulness-based therapy. So acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, is just like it sounds it is. You accept where you are right now, whatever condition you're in, accept it, that's where you are right now, and then take action based on your values. And values are different to goals. It's what you stand for in life. It's how you want to be remembered when you're gone. Values, very important and very helpful. So that when you do have those unhelpful and negative thoughts, then you've still got somewhere, you need somewhere for your mind to go. So if you take your mind to your values, wow,
Okay, so that's different to your goals. So you're not actually trying to reach something, you're actually feeling and being something.
Yeah.
The way you want to be, rather than actually trying to achieve something.
That's right.
It's just being that.
Because goals, you set goals and tick the boxes, but with values, you never tick the boxes, because it's always there. It's what's important to you. One of the exercises I actually did back in the early days to work out what your values are is to imagine yourself at your own funeral. So there you are, and you imagine your loved ones. There they are, okay? And then the thing to do is imagine what your loved ones are saying about you. And that helps work out what your values are. For example, the thing that came to me was, I visualised my young one saying, oh, Dad always had time for us. So that became a value. So then you take action based on that value, like, well, take them to the river on Saturday or to the park, whatever. Okay, spend time with them. It becomes a value. So that's one way you can do it.
Yeah, fantastic. And so you do work now with Juvenile Justice?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Mentoring the boys that come in, and most don't come from a very good place. So I work on social skills mostly, and teach them that, and of course mindfulness skills, which are very powerful for anyone, whether you've got mental suffering or not. And it's interesting that most boys that come in are diagnosed with something, ADHD or ADD or bipolar disorder or whatever. There's a whole range of things, and most are on some sort of medication. And in 2009, when I read the book The Happiness Trap, I decided to get Dr. Russ Harris to train me in ACT and mindfulness. So that's what I did. So now I'm an ACT therapist. But it was mindfulness that I really fell in love with. The practice of mindfulness. It's a very simple practice. Not easy to do though. I'm not saying it's easy, and it does require practice. But what mindfulness is a practice of bringing yourself back to the present moment over and over again, and it must be practiced. And the power of mindfulness is actually in the silence between our thoughts. So these days, and through my book Mindful Actions, I wrote a book, Mindful Actions, and you can tell by the name, is about mindfulness and how to develop a mindful practice. But it's also a little about act as well, you know, because if you don't take action, nothing will change. And part of what I said in my book, things don't get better by chance. They get better by change. So mindfulness is a practice where particularly when you notice unhelpful or negative thoughts, use the key thought, and this is what I teach all the time, use the key thought, be mindful. Be mindful. And then what that key thought triggers is a pausing of your mind. Just pause, connect with the present moment, wherever you are, just connect. And that little pause enables you to connect not only with the people around you, but with the universe as well, you know, with that divine creativity that's available to us. And it is. We are actually all part of that. And once you realise that, well, that's part of the spiritual awakening that we talked about earlier.
And so you've, it was interesting when you said that all these different classifications, bipolar and, you know, ADD, ADHD and all the rest, and I mentioned to you earlier about a doctor that has come up with the biochemistry and can actually see the different biochemistries of these classifications. But they also, what I really like about that work is he can see what's happening within the body. But then, as you mentioned, that if you undertake mindfulness practice, you can almost override that. And I mean, I don't know what happens chemically in the body, but you've had a lot of people who have had recoveries when they've had these diagnoses without using medication.
It's all about balance, body, mind, soul. And honestly, I think the most important one is mind, because once you have your mind in order, wow, other things flow on. And when you realise the connection we have, it's so powerful. And with mind and that connection, the spiritual or the soul, when you have that in order, then your body more or less looks after itself. And there's scientific evidence now that a mindful practice aids in that, because I've seen so many people stop smoking, get off and beat addictions with a mindful practice. Because it's so powerful, you know. With a mindful practice, then you start, when you do start to receive the good stuff, wow, then you're able to make decisions which are good for your body and good for everything, good for your relationships. Because a very valuable part of mindfulness is being present. Especially with your loved ones. You know, the greatest gift we can give our loved ones is our presence. I don't know if you've got a daughter, I know. Well, if you've ever had your daughter or wife or husband, anyone, say to you, "Were you listening to me?" Okay, because that's when we're mindless. That's called when we're mind somewhere else. And we know automatically if we're talking to someone and their mind is somewhere else. They're not home. Hello. You're talking to someone who's not even there. So, for goodness sake, develop your mindful practice and be present, especially with your loved ones.
And of course that's going to make them feel heard, listened to, and connect that connection there, so they're going to be more responsive, more positive towards you.
You might notice the cover of my book. I'll show you my book. Mindful Actions, and I've used the ripple effect. And the reason I chose that was because I wanted to make a ripple, and I'm passionate about my purpose, helping people with mental suffering. So I want to make a ripple in my community and in the bigger world even. You know, and then hopefully people, as they read my book, and it is happening now, then people develop their mindful practice and cause their own ripple. And honestly, we can change the world. We can. One person at a time. Government can't do it, religions can't do it, but we can. One person at a time. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's very good.
Wow, really wonderful. And I think this is definitely from as I mentioned, I've looked at Bruce Lipton's work, and,
Yeah,
and
so
I'm
have I.
always,
Yeah.
always looking into those sorts of things. And I think, as you've said, it's such a powerful, amazing tool
It is.
for everybody to use.
So let's start teaching our young ones at school.
Absolutely.
Can't do any harm. It's in UK Parliament now. For 3 years now, they've been actually practicing mindfulness,
Right.
and now they've made recommendations in 4 areas, and that education is one, and law enforcement and prisons is another one.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and where mindfulness should be introduced because it is so beneficial. So it's happening. And I actually emailed the whole New South Wales, all the ministers, and I've got responses from the Minister for Roads, and he recognises that mindfulness there should be some sort of mindful campaign to help drivers not be distracted.
Yes,
because that is a major cause of accidents. It
definitely.
is mindlessness, being distracted.
Absolutely.
Which is really good. And the Premier's office, well, they've emailed me back saying they're going to refer it on to the Minister for Education. So there are things happening.
Yes,
and in the Victorian Parliament as well. I actually did a talk down there at a university. Me, who went halfway through Year 9, I was pretty chuffed with that. I was invited to talk
Fantastic.
in a lecture theatre, packed with people, and I did a 50-minute talk on mindfulness and shared that vision. That's what led to that website being done last year, actually.
Yeah.
And part of that vision, mindfulness in education, I said that we need to be teaching our children how to think, not so much what to think.
Yes,
Big difference, because that would foster creativity
and caring for fellow students and
all that, kindness, everything.
Yeah.
And already there's been many studies done overseas, mostly because it's fairly new in Australia yet, mindfulness. But the studies show clearly, beyond any doubt, that it reduces bullying and also reduces stress and anxiety, especially later at HSC time. They can handle, they know how to handle all that. And the other beautiful thing about mindfulness is our memory function. Wow. When you meet a few people and 30 seconds later you've forgotten their names.
Yes,
if you're mindful when you meet them, just being mindful, in other words, not be mindless, and be present and listen to their names, guess what? You'll recall them.
It.
And it's the same in study and in sport and in music.
Yes,
Mindfulness is powerful in so many ways.
And so we were talking before about not so much looking at goals and looking at values, but then that will help you achieve goals.
Oh, absolutely.
in the outcome.
Yeah. Without even trying.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay, well that was a little out on, but
it always happens. There's always more to talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, look, I agree that it's so important to bring this into the schools.
Yeah.
That I know that with both of my girls, I've tried so hard to instill a lot of values into them and to help them to be aware of what they're thinking. And there's so little of it that I hear about happening in the schools.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you hear of these problems that are happening or, schoolyard stuff going on, and you think, gosh, the teachers should be coming in, sitting them down and saying, hey, let's sort this.
Sorry to butt in, Di, but just to say that Maureen is outside, when the time comes.
Thanks,
Chauffeurs arrived.
Great.
Have fun.
Thanks.
Great.
No, where
Very
was
good.
I at? Oh, yeah, okay. So, when there's things going on in the schoolyard, and I think, isn't there someone to just get all the kids together, bring them together and help them to think about what they're doing.
Sure.
And to learn to interact better with the other kids, to connect with them.
Yep.
There's none of that happening.
Yeah.
And I just think if they could all sit down and learn to connect to each other, listen to each other, support each other, encourage each other, imagine what a great place it'd be.
Oh,
Instead
absolutely.
of kids dreading going to school, they'd be loving going to school.
Yep.
And connecting and interacting and having more nurturing between them all.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have a mindfulness mentor in every school?
Oh,
You know,
great.
and that's what I'm doing. What I've started more recently is training people to be mindfulness mentors.
Right.
So it's been a process where people have seen the light, if you like, stepped from the darkness into the light, and now they've got a mindful practice. And the next thing that happens is, once you become very mindful and filled with love and gratitude, then all you want to do, because once you're full, you can only overflow, can't you? So then you just want to help others, you know, and give a bit back. And now there's a lot of people coming on board with that. So that's my thing now, teaching people how to be mindfulness mentors.
Right.
And we can all do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
parents, teachers, please learn the skills. They're simple.
Absolutely.
You don't need a 4-year course. You just need an hour and a half with me.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
we'll do it. We'll get the process started.
Yeah, great. Even just
It's
talking
amazing.
to you, I'm picking up on little things that remind me, oh yeah, I've got to just, you know, stop for a minute and think, and, you know.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Great.
Very
and
good.
It also, whoever does these practices slows down. I mean, it's
Yes.
so rewarding in yourself. You feel such a peace and a happiness without needing anything to activate that.
Yes.
You know, you look at the kids, and a lot of people now are just constantly on the computer looking for a high or a buzz or something to entertain them. And I actually, because I'm very connected with the ocean, I love the surfing.
Yes.
And the buzz this high that I get just to sit at the beach and just watch the waves and hear the birds, and I actually find now that it's very difficult to replace or get that from something else.
Yep.
And it's just such a quietening, but it's such a enlightening.
Yep.
You know.
Well, you're being mindful, quite simply, and a lot of people are naturally mindful. All children.
Oh, it's been hard work.
Yeah. All children are.
Yeah.
Early on, you see children how
Yes,
they just go from one thing to the next quite easily. They don't get stuck anywhere or dwell on anything. They adventure. They're curious, because
Yes.
curiosity is very important as well. It's part of mindfulness. Curiosity. And children are. They're naturally curious, and they move from one thing to the other, and they're adventurous. And then somehow life happens to people, and then they get stuck. That's all. So we need to get back to being a kid again.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah. And really removing all those things that have taken us away from being
Distractions.
That's
Yeah.
what you know, my daughter said something to me the other week, and I thought, oh no. She said to me, it's like you want me to be perfect. And what I realised, and I thought, how could she be thinking that? And what I realised was that because I'm always trying to stop her from taking on these negative beliefs or influences or something from the television, so I'm trying to say, no, just, you don't need any of that. I said to her, but I realised myself what I'd been doing. Because it took me a while to work it out. I thought, why is she thinking that, and what's going on? So I worked it out, and I said, no, it's more that I don't want you learning all this negative stuff. You're perfect how you are, without all these other influences.
Beautiful. Yeah. I've heard parents get up at these meetings and talk, and what I'm hearing is they had no idea that their child was going to suicide. Had no idea at all. And I'm not saying they didn't listen, but what I am saying is listening is so important. And I mean mindful listening too, with full presence. Really listen, because you're not just, there's an Aboriginal word, didiri, and didiri is an ancient method of healing trauma, and it's very powerful. And what didiri involves, and didiri really is an Aboriginal word for mindfulness in a way, but didiri involves deep listening, which means listening beyond your thoughts, listening deeply within your soul, if you like. But when you're mindfully listening to people with full presence, then also what that does is tune in your intuition. So you will pick up intuitively not only how to respond, not react, but that's another thing. You will be able to respond by receiving what you need to receive intuitively from the universe, but also you will receive intuitively from the other person, the person you're
There's
listening
something
to.
wrong.
And often you will pick up things beyond what they're saying. And that is so important.
Yes.
So listening is a really valuable skill for all parents.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
listen to your kids, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And like you're saying, it's not just listening to the spoken word.
No.
It's that deeper level of listening. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
You know what? I think my daughter, I was just thinking about this morning, that my older daughter and I, we've had quite a bit of friction. And, you know, I always try and, you know, I do have the belief that we create our own reality. So
Yes.
I think, well, why am I creating this? and one thing I was just thinking this morning, maybe it was because I was thinking of mindfulness because I knew I'd be talking to you, but she seems to pick up on me so well. So I can put out this wonderful positive, you know, surface to everybody.
Yep.
But deep down, if I'm feeling stressed or if there's something wrong with me, if I'm not feeling well or, you know, and there's something actually wrong, but I'll hide that from everybody and just soldier on, she picks up on it like that.
Wow.
And she
Great.
reacts to me.
Yep.
And it's been really difficult for me.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
been really difficult because I had to face myself. I had to actually look at, well, what's going on? Why am I getting this negative and what's happening? And when I look in myself, I'm actually feeling really crap.
Okay.
And she can't handle that sort of dishonesty where it's not that I'm trying to purposely be dishonest,
Yep.
but I'm not facing my own feelings of not feeling well or strong or upset or whatever it is.
Yep.
And she'll react to that, and it upsets her, and she doesn't like it, and she doesn't know what to do about it. And so,
Okay.
and so that, yeah, it's a bit like what you were saying. She was actually
Yes.
picking up truly on how I was feeling, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
She was actually more in touch with me than I was in touch with me, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. You know. Wow. But that's how Aussies are. Too.
Yes.
Because especially
Yeah.
blokes, not so much women because they do talk,
Yeah.
and, which is good, and they
Yeah.
listen to each other, and
Yeah.
that's powerful too.
Yeah.
But blokes, you know, how you going, mate? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Even if they're going shit,
Yes.
you know, you don't say that on radio.
Yeah.
Well, that's how blokes are,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must be a bit blokey. Oh, we've all got different sides, haven't we?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm involved with the Clarence Valley Aboriginal Men's Group, and we have a barbecue breakfast every Thursday morning.
Okay.
And it's a place where we have a yarning circle. And yarning circles are very powerful too.
You're not yarning as in
No,
knitting.
not yarning. Having a yarn. And we have a sausage sandwich or bacon eggs or something. And then we sit in a circle, and we always have a different topic each week. And then we go around the circle and everyone says their name and what that topic means to them. So you get everybody's view on different things, like gratitude or, you know, whatever, a whole range of things. So, you know, I don't know if your Amber has a yarning circle.
Not that I know of.
Well, get one started,
yeah,
Di.
yeah. Well, I can't do the men's group, can
No.
I? Yeah.
Group work is very important.
Yeah,
Everyone,
definitely.
you know, join a group. Help your community somehow.
Yeah,
There's always a way.
Definitely.
There's a,
And you know, things like, even I know there's a fishing mental health group started
Yes.
up, and I mean, really, that's a very meditational type of.
sure is. Fishing,
You know?
fantastic.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not getting a bite.
Yeah, and like you're saying about the actions, bringing it into action. I mean, we don't need to. Mindfulness isn't about totally not doing anything. Like
No.
You can be. I know a lot of meditation, or some people feel they need to just sit and, you know, sit for hours and do nothing. But you can be actually doing a lot of things
Yep.
while you're being mindful or in a meditative state.
Yep. I wrote an article a while back for Elephant Journal, which is 5 million sort of readers a month.
Okay.
Elephant Journal, it's online. And I wrote the article. The article's called What Mindfulness Is Not. And that sort of explained what mindfulness is better than trying to explain what mindfulness is in a way. And one of the things that mindfulness is not is meditation. one can lead to the other, but they are certainly different, because meditation is very much a relaxation thing, and it is important to relax, of course.
Yes,
but
yeah.
mindfulness is for your whole day. No matter what you're doing, you can still pause, connect with now, with the present moment, pause, and there you have it. Anytime, no matter what you're doing or how busy you are, how many things you got on. And you hear a lot about multitasking today being a good thing. Sorry, it's a bad thing. One thing at a time is plenty. You can only do one thing at a time.
Properly.
So, so come on, be mindful. Pause and do that one thing, then the next, and so on. And you'll have order in your life, order in your mind. It's powerful.
Bit like the moon and the sun.
Yeah, absolutely.
they're in their order and their routines.
So my recovery started with that. That I realised it's like the moon. It has a dark side. There is a dark side, and I don't want to get into religion or even spirituality that much, but honestly, there is a dark side. In Buddha terms, they call it resistance, which is very good. And I believe the dark side is actually there to test us, and it's ruthless. It tests, and it all happens through our minds. We get input from both the light and the dark, if you like, or from love and from fear.
Yes,
you can put it that way. It doesn't matter how you put it. You see where I'm going? But it's that ruthless that people do suicide. And lives are ruined. People get addicted and they get homeless and all sorts of things. It's very, very powerful. But if you just keep in mind that it's there to test us, to teach us lessons. So that's what the past is all about. Lessons. So let's learn from it and be mindful, be present, and move forward.
Fantastic. And really, that's when you look at our lives, everything we do in our lives comes down to either love or fear.
Yes, absolutely. We can either operate out of love or fear. We have a choice. Anyhow, let's operate out of love, okay?
Yes, absolutely. Definitely.
Very good.
Well, all the best with all your ventures.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've got to keep mindful, because you could end up all over the place. You've got so many amazing things happening.
Yeah. I'm talking to at the community centre in Woolgoolga tomorrow. It's a mental health sort of talk.
Yeah, great.
And I've been doing library talks, and it's good.
Fantastic.
I love it. I just love it. Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get it into the schools.
Oh,
ASAP.
That needs to happen.
Definitely. We could imagine the changes that would happen then.
Yeah. It comes under prevention, in my view. Everyone's trying to work out what to do about bullying and youth suicide and all the rest of it. Well, let's prevent it.
Yes.
Get right back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, if we start with the kids when they're young, that's the tool they've got for the rest of their life.
And part of the resistance I get is people say that it's not the teacher's job, it's the parent's job. But if the parents don't know about mindfulness, how can they teach their kids? And there's a brilliant program that's going in America now where they do a mindfulness exercise, and then each time they do that, each week they do one, and then they send a note home to the parent or an email, and to ask little Johnny what he learned today about being kind, for example.
Okay, great.
And that way they are
Being
teaching the parent as well as the pupils.
Yeah.
So,
And really, you think, well, a school is there to teach children. Why not teach them, I mean, you've got your sciences, your arts, all your different subjects in school, and like you say, this is such an important one. Why not
start the day with it at school? Have 10 minutes of quiet time and do a little mindfulness exercise or a guided meditation. I do one every one-on-one session I do, or group talk, or even a bigger group. I always do that relaxing mindfulness exercise, which can be called a guided meditation, but I don't want to get it mixed up with meditation too much.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful. And part of that process that I do, I take people through the 5 senses and introduce the 6th sense, which is our intuition, or spirit or soul. It's got many names actually. I like to call it, you read in my book, the silent observer. And it's that part of us which notices things, you know. It's awareness in its purest form is what the silent observer is.
So your website, please.
You can find me on Facebook, just search for Mindfulness Coach, or actually you can just Google Mindfulness Coach. You'll find me because I'm on the front page of Google. And that's not because I pay them anything, that's because of the traffic.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, but it's mindfulnesscoach.com.au, and also the organisation is mindfullymad.org.
Wonderful.
Either way, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, Di.
Look forward to, I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
And I'm a great fan of your radio show. It's beautiful.
Thank you
Good
very
on you.
much.